Hi, I am Makasha, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to you all who are subscribed. So, as you saw in the title, it's talking about bloodline. What do I mean when I talk about the bloodline? Okay, so what that is the genetic information that is passed to you through your DNA that extends all the way to the first person in your ancestral line. Okay, that's number one. Number two, this genetic information is passed through the mitochondrial DNA of the mother to her child. It's only passed from mother to child. Okay. So what does this mean? Basically, you know how we nowadays we talk about biracial people or saying, hey, I'm half this, I'm half that, I'm 25% this, 75% that, 17% this, whatever. All that is completely irrelevant when it comes to bloodline because all it is that you are what your mother is. Oh, your mother was biracial. What was her mother? Oh, she was. Oh, what's her mother? This is as simple as it goes. It's really that simple. It's been purposely made to be complicated so that we can lose track of our bloodlines. So let's use some real life examples of this. Oh, I have notes. So if you see me looking down, that's all I'm doing. Okay, so let's use some examples of what this means. Let's say, for instance, we have a woman of color and then we have an Irish man. So this woman of color and this Irish man has a child. They have a little girl. That little girl is 100% part of the mother's bloodline. That's it. I don't care how light her skin is. I don't care how straight her hair is. She is 100% part of that woman's bloodline. Now let's switch it up. Let's say, for instance, we have an Irish woman and a man of color. Now let's say that they get together and they have a child, a daughter. Now I do not care how dark her skin is, how kinky her hair is. That child is still 100% part of that mother's bloodline. I say all this to say that physical characteristics are only skin deep. That is it. They do not affect your bloodline whatsoever. This is the primary reason why I stress to people do not be so focused on a person's skin color because it can be highly deceiving. Let's go back to those two examples that I just used. Let's go back to the woman of color with the Irish man. Now, let's take it a little bit further. Let's say that, okay, so the woman of color and the Irish man gets together and has a daughter. Okay, now let's say that that daughter gets together with another Irish man and has another daughter. Now, let's say that daughter gets together with another Irish man and has another baby. By that time, that child may not look like they have any kind of color in them or people of colorness in them. What the heck? We got to do something with it. But they may not look like they have any kind of blackness in them. They might look like a straight white woman. However, her bloodline is still along the lines of that woman of color. Okay, so let's look at the other example with the Irish woman and the man of color. Okay, so let's say they get together and they have a baby girl. Now, let's say that little girl, now, of course, she's going to be brown skin, or she might be brown skin pigmented more. But then let's say, for instance, she gets together with another man of color. Okay, so they have another child. You may not even know that they have any white in them. And so then that child gets with another man of color. And then they have another child. So you can see that you can have a woman who could be several shades darker than me, kinky hair, all that good stuff, but her bloodline not be of the indigenous black people of color. That's why I say we have to detach ourselves from purely or only looking at our skin colors. Okay, and we actually see this play out a lot in our communities. And a lot of times, especially in our communities, we're so quick to be so inclusive of everybody, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it does become a problem when women of other bloodlines claim another. And I'm probably going to have another video that discusses that. Because it's happening a lot in our community. You'll have a lot of different women who are actually different bloodlines. Let's say, for instance, I'm looking down again. Or not women and men of different bloodlines. Let's say, for instance, Barack Obama. He's brown, but that's not his bloodline. that's not part of his bloodline. Or you have Alicia Keys, one of my favorite singers. Or you might have Drake, or you might have Doja Cat, or you might have Zendaya, or her. They don't come from the same bloodline, meaning through their mother. They're of a completely different bloodline than what they appear. This is very important, and I'm going to have another video that discusses that probably a little bit later. But right now, I don't want to focus too much on things that separate us versus things that, pull us together. But it is something that we must address, because it has been used as a tactic to break down people of color all around the world. Gotta say it. I do have to prepare you all, because some of the things that I might talk to you all about may not be very comfortable, but it's stuff that we have to address so that we can, at the very least, make ourselves aware of it. All right, so next. Why is our bloodline so important? Well, the reason why is because our DNA actually houses information. Okay, it's not just a bunch of codes twirling around each other. No, it actually has information. This DNA is actually housing information about your abilities, your gifts, your skill set that is like predisposed to your lineage. Let's say, for instance, you might have somebody, or you might come from a lineage that writes, that are scribes. And so naturally, it'll be easier for you to excel in that area. And oftentimes, this could be something that comes across to you as a passion of yours. It's easier for you to excel in this area because you're predisposed to it. So you might have somebody else who has to work their behinds off and study and practice and do all this other kind of stuff just to be halfway decent at it. But with you, it comes to you naturally. It's literally in your blood. And we can also use the not so pleasant experiences or information that we get from our DNA, do like the trauma and the fear and all that kind of stuff. We can utilize this also by addressing different fears. I just recently did this. And I'm currently doing this with fears that your ancestral line might hold due to experience. Oh, my battery's running low. Due to experience, we can tackle those, face those fears head on, so that we can alleviate those fears, so that way we don't have to continue passing it down. We can heal those and move forward. Or when it comes to our enemies, learn about who our enemies were. Because oftentimes, especially in our experience, our enemies have the ability to shapeshift and change their identities. But what they don't change is their behavior. And so we can remember some of the things that was going on in previous lives, or with our ancestors and stuff. If we can remember some of this stuff, it'll be easier for us to identify and recognize those same type of behaviors and beings today, so that we can see, hey, let's make a better choice. Let's make better decisions, so that way we can elevate our future generations and ourselves. We have come to a time on our planet where it is time for those of us whose DNA has been awakened and activated. It's time for us to stand in those powers, stand in those abilities, and practice those abilities, so that we can be the change that this planet needs, so that it can survive this time that we're living in. And not only survive, but also thrive. We are meant to thrive. As I mentioned before, the planet is very much so alive. She is a living, breathing organism, and we are part of that organism. So, for example, let's think of a body. Every single body part has its own job. That's one of the reasons why when people talk about, oh, we're all the same, and no, we're not. That's like having a finger, having a hand, and saying, oh, you know what? All of us are the same. All the fingers are the same. All of us are thumbs, or all of us are middle. No, that's not how it works. All of us, we have different jobs to make this hand work properly. And our bloodline gives huge clues as to what we're supposed to be doing. See, our planet, our organism that we're part of, was invaded a long time ago, over thousands of years ago, by what I like to call a virus, because that's pretty much how these beings are. They're very destructive in nature. And literally all they're doing is sucking the life force out of not only the planet, but also the beings on the planet. That's the reason why this world is in complete chaos right now. However, this is the time for us to be able to stand up and fight for ourselves. Everyone has a job to do, and that job is housed inside your DNA. you get help from your DNA to do what you're supposed to do. All you have to do is tap into it. So how do we tap into it? Well, meditation is very important, but it can also come to you in different ways by doing what you like to do. That can help you, especially stuff that's very creative, that can help you get different messages as to what you're supposed to be doing. It can be done through music, it can be through visions or auditory experiences where you might hear stuff or smell stuff, or it a lot of times it can come through kids, your children. If you have children, it can come through children or other people through your lineage. I mean, there's so many different ways. It's just all about being open to those messages to come in. All we have to do is just stop and go within and learn thyself, know thyself. And then once we do that, we'll realize that, hey, we are the conquerors. The ancestors are waiting to help. So what you gonna do? That's all I have for now. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.